Hello, welcome to the Illuminating Crossroads community. I am your guide, Lisette, and I'm so happy to dive in for this week's intuitive guidance, if you will. So this week it will be a little bit different. I'm going to pick the cards while we're in this space together, and then I have the astrological chart up and the ephemeris, the digital ephemeris here as well. Indeed. So we're kind of just gonna flow with what the vibes are, with our intuition and all that good jazz. So let us begin. So we're gonna start with these astrology oracle cards, so you can see if there's any key components that are standing out for this upcoming week. And I do just want to notate, as always, utilize your own discernment, your own intuition. So take what resonates, leave the rest, as I always love to say. And this is merely just to support you along your journey with wherever you may be at, to help guide you at whatever crossroads you might be experiencing along your path. So I would like to kind of just give a reminder that currently right now, a few things to take note of cosmically with the planetary bodies, if you will. We do have Saturn that is in retrograde. That went retrograde on June 17th, so curious to see how that has been for everyone. That should be taking us back to things that were at the beginning of March, so reflecting back and seeing what projects or things we really wanted to take more initiative on back then, and how we've actually been continuing to do that, and even maybe just older projects that you kind of forgot about in totality, or just with routine and such. Like, where have you kind of lacked self-discipline, and how is it kind of going on, if you will, for yourself? And then we are in the shadow period for Venus retrograde right now, and Venus doesn't station retrograde until July 17th, I believe, or around that time. So this is the shadow period of kind of leading up to it. And I did really actually want to share that I have been doing in my meditations, noticing that, which I think I put notes here from last week's week ahead that I was going to do, but then stuff had come up. So anyway, so I put, I believe during the retrograde season, specifically for Venus, we will have the experience of union with ourselves, of feminine and masculine, my mind and the cosmic mind, polarity and balance. And I don't know that it'll necessarily be for everyone, but I do think that there has been this calling, and I'd be curious if anyone else has also felt it, but to really just have a more of a balanced expression of these two polarities and how they actually show up, and how they can be in partnership with one another to help us have further sustainability in our lives. Because I know sometimes there'll be these moments of leaning on one more than the other, but actually finding this sweet spot where it's that you don't have to lean on one more than the other, because it's so beautifully integrated that the expression of this polarity within self really allows for this essence of union to be shared in action and truth, and our own personal will, if you will. But yeah, indeed. And then of course we had summer solstice last week, so that was exciting, in the northern hemisphere, of course. And yeah, and then the sun moved into Cancer last week as well. So we're still kind of running off of those vibes from last week into this week. So just understanding our own personal luminescence and kind of seeing like how we nurture our own vitality, our own inner fire, our own essence, if you will. And this week so this is from June 26th to July 2nd. I forgot to notate that. But yeah, so we will have Mercury moving into Cancer on Monday, and I'm kind of intrigued by this because, of course, I do astrology intuitive based at the moment, that I'm always studying, so I just enjoy sharing as I go along and then working with the cards. But I am interested in the fact of that it felt so heavy in the masculine end last month, and then this month I really feel the invitation to come into more of that ease in this union that is taking place within our energetic bodies if we choose. But yeah, so that's something nice to kind of look out for, and especially since Mercury was just in Gemini, and that was more of a like, maybe you were going from like different topics and subjects, or just finding maybe new interests, or maybe stepping a little bit more outside of your comfort zone with your own like intellectual capacity, if you will, and maybe even expanding and saying like the bounds of your own mind. And then now it almost seems like really like getting back to the root of the things that really ignite our own essence, and like what really actually nurtures us as we learn more about whatever topic or subject it may be. But like it seems to be the shift into focusing on things that really feed our soul more as well, and maybe even thinking about like how can we tend to our body more, and just bring more of this awareness to this physical vessel that holds us and also nurtures us. So how are we nurturing our body as well? Yeah, so that is a big thing for Mercury in Cancer on Monday. And then we also have Neptune that will go retrograde on Friday. So that's pretty good marker too, because so when planets go retrograde, it's this point of looking like from us, the observer, it's this illusion as if the planetary body is moving in this backwards direction. So as this archetype, if you will, or this planetary body of Neptune is going backwards within our life, maybe we'll go back to dreams that we once had, and of course it kind of depends on where Neptune sits at within your own chart, so that is something key to kind of look at. But yeah, and it can also be like how we actually allow ourselves, like going back to see how we allow ourselves to experience this boundlessness within this human experience, and how maybe we connect to more of the spiritual aspect. Maybe have you been keeping up with your own I don't know why I want to say have you been keeping up with your own spiritual hygiene but you know, but yeah, really checking into this component of like, okay, now Mercury is having me think about my body a little bit more, maybe my home, what it is that really actually holds me. And then Neptune going retrograde, now even initiating a little bit more, like especially in Pisces too, maybe seeing like what's the dream that we have for the additive or the addition that we're putting into this collective creation, not only in our individual life but as the whole, or the bigger picture, if you will. So Y'all, I'm realizing I say if you will a lot. Pardon me, but it just seems to fit. Okay. So, looking at the cards that came out, I was like, let's just work with these ones for right now. So, the first cards that came out is Earth, Persistence, Patience, and Practicality. And then we have Fixed, which is Stability, Persistence, Loyalty, and Dependability. So there's those two cards. I'll let it focus in. Honestly, I think this like persistence and patience and practicality thing is kind of speaking a little bit on one, that essence of Saturn, how kind of notated it's in its retrograde right now. So we're kind of going back and seeing like how have we been disciplined in these different areas of our life that are kind of asking for the call to be patient and like continuing to put in the work each and every day. And I think it's really fascinating because just thinking how Pluto right now is also in retrograde, and I noticed for my own life that this Pluto in retrograde, which Pluto I think stationed retrograde at the beginning of May if I'm not mistaken, it's been bringing me back to this time of my life that was in like 2021, which has been very fascinating. But I personally have planets at the end of Capricorn, so I feel like that's kind of why it's hitting that like part of my life a little bit more and taking me back there. But I think just in general, like really noticing like what were things that like in the past maybe like 3 or 4 years that you really felt called to work on or to bring into your life. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It can be like I decided a couple years ago, I was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna work out 3 times a week. And then maybe you kept it for a little bit during that time frame and it lasted, but then for a little bit, but then it stopped. And then now maybe it's coming up to the surface again and it's like, okay, well, I know I did it for a little bit of time before, but how can I do it again, but actually allow it to carry like throughout to the duration of my life, if you will. but it can be with anything. So just using that as an example for yourself so you can see if there is something within your life from a few years back that has been coming up again for you, and noticing how you can actually allow it to have more grounded roots this time around, since we do experience things in a cyclical nature. So really taking note of that. And especially since fixed being here. And I love how there was like a rose at the bottom of the card and then you have the roses coming from the heart. So also making sure that like if you are choosing to do things, are they being done because like in your heart it is something that truly you want to do, or is it just this idea? Like the idea is nice, but like how do you make the idea something that is more sustainable for yourself, if you will? So yeah, and knowing that even if you do like tapping into Mercury a little bit, like even if you do like intellectually or in that mental body, if there becomes this disconnect where it doesn't seem to be like fun or like vibrant or have you curious anymore, how can you continue to find curiosity in the things that you're exploring and this like consistent action that you're taking, even in times where it kind of goes away? So like having little remedies may be supportive to figuring out like, oh, okay, I'm feeling like I'm losing my juices here, but why are they being lost? So then it kind of comes back to that like divine feminine and masculine essence, or if you will, and allowing for that union to take place nicely. So then understanding how to preserve yourself and rest, but then take inspired action and know like what you are needing, so you can continue to carry yourself throughout your days, if you will. Okay, and then we also got house 2, so physical security, possessions, material values, and self-worth. And then conjunction, a union, merging, and coming together, which is cool. It's like that polarity principle that is speaking on. So these are the cards. I think they're in focus. Awesome. So with this, this is also really cool because, so I just looked at the chart for the 30th of June. It looks like the Sun and Mercury will be conjunct. So this is a nice, beautiful renewal of our, how do I want to say, maybe our inner dialogue, if you will, and maybe even noticing if you've been in a space where that inner dialogue hasn't been supportive and it's been really like I guess like sabotaging yourself, like that essence of self-sabotage, or just like really like building this false story or this illusion within your mental body. Hopefully now you're coming to a point where that inner dialogue is changing, or you're at least aware of the difference between your essence that is observing the dialogue that is being created within your mind, and knowing this like truer essence that lies even deeper within, that also has its own inner dialogue or its own intelligence that is merely wanting to be this bridge of connection, and noticing how maybe you can allow for this channel of communication within your own mental capacity or thought process to really connect a thread to your, let's say, your higher self or your angels or your guides or whatever it is that you believe in God or the divine, the universe. Maybe how could you allow it to really have a deeper connection and be this essence of like you being held, and more so like notating that like you're protected, but remembering like to create space between your thoughts. So there can be this level of knowing like your true worth, your true value. And if you feel like, for example, you're like in a little like imposter syndrome, or it's like lacking confidence in any kind of way, this is a good time to kind of allow yourself like a reset and to have more faith within yourself as you continue to express, especially when it comes to like inner truths, if you will, and maybe whatever it is that you've been diving into, that you've been enjoying, and you just really do want to share with others or what have you. But yeah, so really allowing for all these values within life to really nurture you, and for you to be clear on what they are, so they can hold you as you continue to go on about your journey. For these changes that you're making in your life, are you making changes that are providing you a legitimate foundation to continue to grow within, so that you can have your abundant garden, if you will? And are you allowing yourself to be open and receptive to being able to receive within this garden that you're creating, and maybe noticing like random flowers or fruits that are coming up that maybe you didn't even realize were there like during this time. But I think more so that's a thing that will kind of happen like over the span of the summer, but just throwing that in because it popped up in my head. But yeah, and then next we had the Ace of Wands and the Tower come up. And of course, these cards are just kind of to help guide throughout the week if you want to use it for just some additional self-inquiry or what have you, as you continue to make refinements and adjustments within your own story that's taking place. So here we have the Tower and the Ace of Wands. So the Ace of Wands can be about a new so it's a fire element, so it could be a new desire, a new project, or just something that you feel really passionate about, something that just like it gets your fire going. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, I just want to go and do this right now. But remembering, if that comes up, that if you want to go and do it right now, it's a process that takes you to getting to that point. And remembering that, so then you can actually like strategically come up with a plan, so you know how you can work through this and accomplish it, and just being really mindful of that, but letting it carry you. Because I think that when we do feel really passionate about something, and especially because we were talking about the mind, and if we feel like we're in a space where it's like, oh, or our mind's just kind of beating us up, if you will, I think it's important that if you do get something that you're really inspired by or passionate about, to take like action with it, but make sure that it is intentional action and not just like scattered like wildfire action, because too, you want to just be like mindful of the process, and to not only just be mindful of it, but to actually enjoy the process as you're going through it. And then next is the Knight of Wands and the Seven of Cups came out. I'm like, let it focus. Okay, so for this, I would see this as well, just kind of giving additional reassurance in that fact of like, okay, interesting. So I just had the thought pop up in my mind, if you are disciplined and like you are doing the stuff to get to your goals, whatever your goals may be, take note if you have anyone that comes into your circle or your life, especially, I don't want to say from the past, but it kind of feels like it could potentially just be someone that is already known, because it doesn't feel like a stranger. So just notate if someone from your past comes up with something that they're really passionate about and they want to extend the invitation for you to join in. Just make sure that it too is something that you are passionate about and something that is in alignment with where you are headed, and the deeper call of like your soul. So like really sit with it and make sure, like, this is definitely a time to, and especially since the Seven of Cups was here with it as well, so it's definitely a time to I'm like, I don't know if it will focus. I'm like looking at the little monitor, I'm sorry. Okay, I think you can kind of see it. Cool. So this is definitely a time, like you can see how there's all of these cups here, right? And there's a lot of options, but really checking in with yourself and notating, like, because sometimes the cup that we think might fulfill us the most ends up being empty. So you just want to make sure that what it is that you're choosing is something that allows for your cup to be full and just flowing with joy. And of course there'll be other experiences along the way that won't be joy, but still being able to know that you're so passionate about this and you really want to take action towards it. So how can you continue to have faith and be inspired and use your discernment, and just know that you are moving in the right direction for yourself, and not questioning it, and staying focused on the cup that you chose. And especially since that essence that I mentioned of like this going back potentially to projects from a couple years ago, or maybe refining it or adjusting it, and really just notating like, okay, if you're making these changes, staying dedicated to them this time around, and really letting yourself be in more of this state of trust and flow, and knowing that the next steps will come, and that you don't have to rush to get to your goal, to really enjoy the process. Like, just keep coming back to enjoy the process. So enjoy the earth beneath your feet type deal. Enjoy all the little grains of sand and such as you go about your journey. So yes. All right. So there's a few cards here. Okay. So an additional supportive essence for this week, if you will. We have water, the overflow, which is awesome because that's what we're talking about. So if you decide, or you've already decided what cup that you're choosing, or if you haven't decided what cup, hopefully you'll get some additional clarity. It's blurry, but hopefully you remember what it looked like. Hopefully you'll get some additional clarity, so then you can be like, see this card? This is like so gorgeous. It's water, the overflow. So the cup is like, she has a cup over her head, which I think ties back to that like that thread of connection to this like divine essence, or this like cosmic mind, like my mind to the cosmic mind type deal. And it's overflowing, and it's just so abundant. So there's this really like deeper understanding of yourself. So really like building more depth into your relationship with yourself, to have more understanding with that world around you. And then here, this is awesome, we have harmonic flight, which this is totally that like polarity essence that was coming through. So I definitely encourage a little bit more of a deeper dive to how these two essences of the feminine and masculine within yourself, or just exploring polarity more in general. I remember when I first like dived into the polarity essence, I was contemplating the sun and the moon, and then I originally like started with the sun as being feminine, the sun being masculine and the moon being feminine, but then I swapped it, and it brought a lot of insight to me. And then eventually I got to the point where I was like, oh, it's neither. So, but it's a process, and it took some months to get there. And then like still till this day, I get more information on that in my own perception, how to like continue to go beyond the point of where my mind has been in the linear perception of life, if you will. So I just share that because maybe that would support someone. And then, yeah, so here's a harmonic flight card. So allowing this beautiful like divine union to take place. And then I think this is so cool that the symbol, the little infinity sign, is here with the DNA. So cool, because in my own meditations, I've been having this like pull collectively to this 0 point, and being conscientious of when we meet the 0 point of the shifting phase of our polarity of experience, from when we shift from one end of the scale to the other, to allow for this true balancing to take place. So just some thought for contemplation if it resonates with you. And then we have She of the Lotus and Internal Explorer. So yeah, gorgeous. So I would definitely say this upcoming week, if you kind of feel like going a little bit more inwards or like not being as social, to kind of like recharge your battery if you need to, and know that like it's okay if that's what you need to do. Really honor yourself and how you're feeling. And especially too, because I don't know about y'all, but your girl has been having some heart-opening stuff happen that I've been working on like for some years, and it's been so beautiful. But there's this fragile moment of like when we are working through something, like understanding when we're closing out a cycle, there's this period of like you're sensitive, and it's like a little baby deer or whatnot. That's what I've been using. I was like, I feel like a little deer that just came out the womb, and I can't walk fully yet. But yeah, so it's just being mindful of like, if you have gone through anything like that, who is actually there to really support, and who is just I don't want to say delaying the process. It sounds like harsh, but just being mindful, because you're like, hopefully based on all the like collective things that have been happening, you're stepping into a place of more confidence, and then you're coming to this space of having more harmonic flight within yourself. And then now, because of that, you know, there's this beautiful expansion within your own heart energy center, and there's a shift in perspective as well, which is like going back to that mental body, and then it's this movement from your heart, and this like trust and knowingness that you are part of this beautiful creation that is taking place, and all the time. Okay, so I feel like this should be pretty supportive for the upcoming week, and of course I always love to hear what you're experiencing, what you've been feeling. Yeah, and I tried to share some of my own experience just because I think it's so important when we share, because it might speak to someone else, our own story, and also sometimes it can bring ease to someone. So if you happen to watch this, I'd love to hear anything if you'd like to share. And then I'm just going to pick some crystal cards for some closing messages for this intuitive guidance session for this upcoming week of June 26th to July 2nd. Alright, so the first card that came up was conflict. I never know if I say this right, but it's Stibnite. Pardon if I butcher words. Words sometimes are just a little difficult. So, but yeah, okay, so there's this beautiful stone, and then we have petrified wood with ancestors that came through. I think that's in focus, hopefully. And then we have fairy stone for fertility. And then we also have, I just feel like pulling this one from the back of the deck. It's kyanite, and it's letting go. So I know it's not in focus. Like, let's see if it'll get there. There we go. Gorgeous. All right, so yes, cool. So yes, and then I'm gonna do, I don't have the, I was like, do I have the book? And we'll just do a nice little like closing one from from the ocean dreams, because I was like, water's been coming up, and we got the water, so that would be awesome. So those were some crystals. And then we'll just pick one card from Ocean Dreams as a closing message. We're gonna go with this one. Hello. That's so cool. Okay, so it says, that felt silly. Hello. Shifting fear, which is so beautiful. Yeah, so shifting fear. So let's see what it says. It says, sorry, let me show you the card. That would probably be nice. Like, if it focuses, I'm like, where do I hold my hand? There we go. So you can see all the little sharks, and then the person is at the center. And honestly, I feel like you can like look at that as like your maybe just like these thoughts that maybe just swimming around you, and then I don't know if you can see, but there's like little rainbows on the side here, and you can think of that as like beautiful like rays of light that are like always coming through, supporting you and holding you. And there's this whole column of like lights going up in the car. Sorry, it's like reversed. Burp. There we go. Columns of lights going up. So again, like connecting to that thread. Okay, so let's read it. Interconnection, seeing past the surface, healing misunderstandings. It says, I can see beyond the labyrinth of my thoughts. How is my fear holding me back? Sharks are one of the most misunderstood animals on Earth. These powerful beings are vital to life in our oceans and function as part of the immune system of our planet. Like T cells that fight off sickness and disease, sharks neutralize illness in the sea in order to keep the populations of all ocean life healthy and in balance. If they disappear, the carbon loading of the atmosphere will rise even more due to species imbalances, causing unimaginable damage in the form of global warming. Without sharks, the delicate ecosystem of the oceans will continue to decline, which is why it is important that we shift our understanding of these sacred creatures. Sharks have graced this planet for more than 450 million years, surviving 4 out of 5 mass extinctions that have unfolded on our Earth. Older than the dinosaurs and the very first trees, sharks are now critically endangered for the first time. In the wake of climate change, pollution, and illegal fishing, today they are left at the sidelines because of preconceived notions and neglect, largely stemming from fear and misunderstanding. When we open our heart beyond fear, anything is possible. Healing and solutions rise in its wake. When we are in a state of doubt, dread, or angst, our mind can feel like a mental labyrinth. This fight or flight response is a natural defense mechanism to stress, and when we're in the thick of it, we can have total tunnel vision. Fear can also present as a symptom of a deeper challenge for which we have no apparent solution, and so we respond with discomfort and confusion. If we were able to open our eyes a bit more and see beyond our fear of sharks, we'd finally find that they are actually quite shy creatures and also indispensable to the diversity of life on Earth. There is an undeniable beauty in this. The energy of the shark is here to help you see beyond any bubbling fear that may be rising to the surface of your subconscious, to help you expand your perception so you can see through any tight-knit vantage points that are being presented to you. To overcome our fears, we must sometimes go through the process of deep unearthing and pinpoint the sources of an event or experience in order to help us release any unprocessed feelings or emotions. Is there perhaps a message being shared through a certain apprehension or worry you still hold? To see beyond fear is not always easy. Rewiring our thought patterns is like working a muscle, and it sometimes takes practice, patience, and time. It may also require us to adjust our perceptions bit by bit and see the world through new eyes in order to gain a broader understanding. So, questions to consider: how is fear instilled in the world around me? How do I notice decisions being made based on fear? What is on the other side of the fear I perceive? And then for the transmission illumination, it says, how can I look beyond my fear? Is there another angle being presented? Beautiful. So I think that's a nice wrap-up card. So I do hope that this was helpful and supportive to whomever may view it. If it was, I'd love if you give it a thumbs up, and then you can subscribe if it resonates with you. And I hope that this week you find supportive, that you're able to have some of those things come to the surface of your mind that may have been just causing doubt. I just keep coming back to doubt. So, and hopefully stepping into more of this presence of your own essence, if you will, and what it is that you have to offer and your value, really your value. But yeah, and then as always, I do offer one-on-one sessions. So if you would like some support with whatever it is that you may be experiencing, I do Reiki sessions, and I do sound healing sessions, and I do intuitive readings as well. And yeah, so I hope that you take care and that you are well. And of course, if you want to share anything below, I'd love to hear it. But until next time, bye!